Sit back and enjoy 2 hours of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started. There is a yoga practice called Kachari Mudra, where you roll your tongue upward into your nasal cavity. It is said to help you overcome thirst, hunger, decay, and death. More than 2,500 retired New York City subway cars have been dumped into the Atlantic Ocean to help create artificial reefs for fish and other marine species. Army ants in the jungles of Central and South America have been documented building living bridges by linking their bodies together to cross gaps and create shortcuts in the rainforest. They can maintain that bridge even while large numbers cross, due to their ability to carry 20 times their own body weight. The Maya and other ancient peoples of southern North America visited dentists to decorate their teeth with notches, grooves, and semi-precious stones such as jade. These inlays were fixed with natural adhesives based on resins and minerals, and in many cases were done without damaging the tooth pulp. The designs could indicate social status or group affiliation, and examples centuries old have been found in very good condition. The narrowest street in the world is located in the city of Reutlingen, Germany. Street number 77 ranges from just 12.2 inches at its narrowest to 19.7 inches at its widest. It was built in 1727. Before Americans first landed on the moon, most of the population did not support the idea of a lunar landing and believed the government was spending too much money on space. Polls from the time showed doubts about the cost compared to domestic issues, although interest grew as the NASA program progressed. After the success of Apollo 11 in 1969, public perception changed, and the achievement was seen as a historic milestone. Iceland became the first country to implement a law requiring companies to prove that they pay the same salary for the same work regardless of gender. The regulation applies to companies of a certain size, which must obtain official certifications to demonstrate pay equality. The Milky Way is named for its appearance. The ancient Romans called it Via Lactea, which means Milky Road, because of the milky band along its edge made up of millions of stars shining with incredible intensity. That luminous strip is actually the view of our own galactic disk from within, where interstellar dust and gas are concentrated. To the naked eye, in very dark skies, it can be seen as a diffuse cloud crossing the sky. The largest insect known of all time was called Meganeuropsis, which resembled a dragonfly and had a body of approximately 18.6 inches in length with a wingspan of 29.5 inches. It lived more than 300 million years ago, when oxygen levels were higher, which allowed insects to reach gigantic sizes. These creatures dominated the skies of ancient swampy forests and were highly effective predators. This deep-sea creature, eerie in appearance and rarely seen, is called the pelican eel. It is a member of the eel family, but its mouth is very large and hinged like that of a pelican. It can consume fish that are larger than its own body, and has an organ at the end of its tail that glows pink to attract food. This is the licky brush. It is for people who have always wanted to lick their cat. It was created by PDX Pet Design and consists of a tongue-shaped brush that is held in the mouth to mimic natural grooming between felines. The idea was created to strengthen the bond with the animal through close contact, although many see it more as a curiosity than a practical everyday tool. A Swedish brewery made the most expensive potato chip in the world, at $56 for a set of 5, or $11.20 per piece. They are made from special potatoes that are harvested by hand and come in 5 flavors: matsutake mushroom, truffle, seaweed, crown dill, leek with onions, and India Pale Ale beer. A wanted criminal named Christopher Paul Neal posted a photo of himself with a swirl effect on his face to try to hide his identity and mock authorities. However, experts managed to reverse the image digitally, revealing his real face, which led to his identification and subsequent arrest. The original Latin name for the dandelion plant is Leontodon taraxacum. This is because in Greek, Leontodon means dandelion, since the jagged leaves resemble a lion's teeth. Its leaves are edible and used in salads, while its root has been used as a coffee substitute in some cultures. It is also known for its ability to grow in poor soils and spread easily with the wind. There is a type of chicken called ayam samani that is jet black, from the tip of its crest to the end of its claws, with bluish-black skin, deep black eyes, and a black tongue. It is covered in glossy metallic black feathers, and even its internal organs are black. Native to Indonesia, it is considered rare and valuable, and some specimens can cost thousands of dollars. Its color is due to a genetic condition called fibromelanosis that causes extreme pigmentation. Mount Kilimanjaro is the highest mountain on the African continent and the tallest freestanding mountain in the world. It rises to 19,341 feet above sea level and is formed by three volcanic cones, Kibo, Mwenzi, and Shira. Although it is located near the equator, its summit is covered with ice, although these glaciers have been shrinking over time. Villagers in Meghalaya, India grow their own living bridges using the roots of the Ficus elastica, or rubber tree. They weave an elaborate system of living bridges, some of which are more than 500 years old. These structures strengthen over time as the roots continue to grow and adapt, and they can support the weight of several people even during heavy rainy seasons. There are 40,000 different types of rice in the world. These varieties include everything from long grain, such as basmati, to sticky and short grain rice used in different cuisines. They are grown in a wide range of climates, mainly in Asia, and many have been developed over centuries to adapt to specific conditions such as flooding, drought, or saline soils. The Voynich manuscript is a handwritten book of 246 pages with many illustrations and approximately 170,000 characters. However, the writing in the book is completely unknown and unreadable, which means no one has been able to read or decipher it. 1 year after the Brooklyn Bridge opened in 1883, circus showman P.T. Barnum led 21 elephants across it to demonstrate the bridge's strength. The parade included his famous elephant Jumbo and helped calm public fears after rumors about the structure's safety, strengthening confidence in one of New York's most iconic bridges. Our fingers do not contain any muscles to enable movement. Actions such as flexing and bending the fingers are possible thanks to specific actions of the tendons, bones, and muscles located in the palm of our hands. These tendons function like cables that transmit force from the forearm, allowing precise and coordinated movements, which makes delicate tasks like writing or holding small objects possible with great control. Adolf Hitler's telephone, recovered from the Führer bunker and kept in a box in an English country house since 1945, was sold at an auction in the United States in late February 2017 for $243,000. According to a study conducted in 2013 by the Karolinska Institute and the Stress Research Institute at Stockholm University in Sweden, stress makes exhausted women hypersensitive to sounds. Even normal decibel levels of a conversation can sometimes seem painfully loud. The chemical compounds we emit when passing gas vary depending on what we have eaten and can differ from person to person. But in case you are wondering, the typical breakdown of flatulence is approximately 20 to 90% nitrogen, 0 to 50% hydrogen, 10 to 30% carbon dioxide, 0 to 10% oxygen, and 0 to 10% methane. There is a neurological condition called synesthesia in which two or more senses are connected. There are multiple types of synesthesia, but one of them is called mirror touch synesthesia, where people who have it feel exactly what others feel as pain and pleasure. One of the reasons the Pentagon is so low in height is due to the shortage of steel caused by the war. The building was constructed primarily using 11,745,259 cubic feet of reinforced concrete, much of which was sourced from the same land surrounding the Pentagon. At a charity auction in Dubai, an extraordinary hamburger inspired by the 7 Emirates of the United Arab Emirates was sold. It was made with multiple layers of meat, aged cheddar cheese, and strips of beef bacon, all inside a saffron brioche bun, and it was sold at a charity auction in Dubai for $10,000. The growling sound you feel in your stomach is called borborygmus. It is caused by the movement of gases within the intestines. It can be heard both when fasting and after eating, since the intestines continue contracting rhythmically to move their contents. Sometimes it sounds louder when there is more trapped air or liquids, and it can vary depending on diet, stress, or even how fast you eat. Bill Gates used to be so addicted to Minesweeper that he would sneak into a colleague's office after work to play because he had uninstalled it from his own computer due to playing too much. At Microsoft, the game came bundled with Windows as a curious way to teach precise mouse use. For years, the internal record was a serious topic among employees, and some managed to solve the expert level in less than a minute. When Kleenex tissues were first introduced to the public in 1924, they were intended to be used with cleansing cream to remove makeup and clean the face. The term clean in the name represented that physical cleaning. and the letter X was linked to another popular and successful product from the company at the time, Kotex. In Hong Kong, personalized license plate auctions can reach extraordinary figures. In one of them, a plate with the number 28 was sold for several $1 million, since in Cantonese, its pronunciation sounds similar to words associated with prosperity and ease. The Galapagos iguana is the only iguana in the world that feeds underwater. They can hold their breath for up to half an hour and dive up to 29.9 feet. They mainly feed on marine algae that they scrape off rocks with their sharp teeth. To withstand the cold water, they regulate their temperature by basking in the sun before and after diving, and they can expel excess salt through special glands near their nose. The Bullicornis, nicknamed the Demon Duck of Doom, was a prehistoric bird that grew up to 8 feet 2 inches tall and weighed an estimated 551 pounds. It lived in Australia millions of years ago and belonged to a group of giant flightless birds known as Dromornithids. Despite its nickname, some studies suggest its massive beak may have been adapted more for crushing tough plants than for hunting prey, although its size made it an imposing animal. According to a study published by Netflix, nearly half of couples who watch online content around the world have cheated on their partner by watching a show ahead of them without their knowledge. Since 2002, all cars have been required to have a glow-in-the-dark trunk release lever that opens the trunk from the inside in case of an emergency. This measure was driven by safety regulations in the United States after several cases in which people became trapped. The mechanism is usually phosphorescent, so it can be easily located in the dark, and became a mandatory standard in new vehicles sold in that market. The United States Navy uses dolphins and sea lions to locate and mark the location of sea mines. Dolphins have the most sophisticated sonar known to man, and sea lions have excellent low-light vision and directional hearing underwater, making them the perfect animals for the job. Green spots on potatoes indicate the presence of chlorophyll, which also means there is a concentration of a harmful toxin called solanine. When you see these green spots, you should cut them out completely and discard them. This usually happens when potatoes are exposed to light during storage, so it is recommended to keep them in a dark and cool place to prevent this color from developing. According to a study conducted by researchers at the University of British Columbia, people who are narcissistic, psychopathic, or have Machiavellian tendencies are less convincing online than they are in person. This is because once nonverbal cues are removed, it becomes much easier to detect someone with these traits. Airports in the United States use peregrine falcons to keep seagulls and geese away from runways in order to reduce the risk of collisions with aircraft. These birds are trained by falconers, and their mere presence alters the behavior of other species, which avoid the area. They are used as part of wildlife control programs along with sounds and habitat management, since bird strikes can cause serious damage to engines. Javier Diaz, a professor in the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at Rutgers University, has developed a drone that can not only fly, but also swim. It is called Navigator. This type of hybrid vehicle can move from air to water without stopping, which is useful for rescue missions, infrastructure inspection, and marine exploration. It also incorporates systems that seal its electronic components to withstand pressure and corrosion, which is key for operating in aquatic environments. The oldest known breeding wild bird, the albatross wisdom, laid an egg at the Midway Atoll National Wildlife Refuge at the age of 66. This Laysan albatross has been monitored for decades by scientists and has raised multiple chicks throughout her life, demonstrating exceptional longevity among seabirds. The artist Bin Dan, who lives in Southern California, creates art by taking photographs of people from the Vietnam War and, using sunlight and glass, printing them onto leaves and then covering them with resin. On September 12, 2001, the day after the September 11th terrorist attacks, the Queen broke tradition during the changing of the guard by having the guards play the national anthem of the United States as a sign of sympathy from the United Kingdom for everything the United States went through and for all those who died. The Sky Slide is a glass slide on the exterior of the observation deck at SkySpace LA, the iconic Los Angeles skyscraper. The slide is almost 45 feet 11 inches long, is 1,000 feet 8 inches above the ground, and takes people from the 70th floor to the 69th. Dogs can have a disorder called canine compulsive disorder, or CCD, which is characterized by the excessive repetition of an action or behavior and can vary depending on the context. CCD is similar to human compulsive disorders and is likely a coping mechanism for when the dog perceives a situation as stressful. Oxygen masks on airplanes are not connected to an oxygen tank. Instead, they use a chemical reaction to generate it on the spot. Inside the compartment, there are generators that, when activated, produce oxygen from solid compounds through heat, allowing an immediate supply without relying on pressurized tanks. This system is designed to function for several minutes, enough time for the plane to descend to a safe altitude where normal breathing is possible. President Richard Nixon could play 5 instruments: the piano, the saxophone, the clarinet, the accordion, and the violin. During his political career, he sometimes played the piano in public, which helped project a more approachable image. He even performed pieces on television, something uncommon among world leaders, showing an artistic side that contrasted with his political profile. The railway system of the Netherlands has maintained its commitment to sustainability, operating nearly all of its electric trains with energy generated by wind. This achievement is supported by agreements with renewable energy providers and an extensive network of wind farms, which has significantly reduced emissions associated with rail transport and positioned the country as a leader in clean mobility. A woman from Michigan named Barbara Soper gave birth to her 3 children on August 8, 2008, September 9, 2009, and October 10, 2010, respectively. The odds of this happening are 50 million to 1. In Bolivian cities, there is a program called Zebra Mom, where a team of young people dresses in zebra costumes and dances in the streets to raise awareness among drivers and pedestrians about traffic rules. The zebra was chosen because of the design of the pedestrian crossing. On Valentine's Day, during the Victorian era and early 20th century, people sent vinegar valentines in addition to the usual Valentine's Day cards sold in the United States and Great Britain. These cards featured an illustration and a short, insulting verse instead of love. It was a way to insult someone without doing it directly to their face. Crab claws have very strong muscles. They can produce a pinching force of up to 59 pounds. In species such as the coconut crab, that pressure is enough to break hard shells and even small objects. These claws are not only used for feeding, but also for defense and in fights between individuals, where size and strength can determine dominance within their environment. The plant Rafflesia arnoldi is the largest single flower in the world. It can measure more than 35.8 inches wide and weigh nearly 24.2 pounds. It lacks leaves, a stem, and visible roots, as it lives as a parasite inside other plants. It also emits a strong smell of rotting flesh to attract insects that help with its pollination. There is an entertainment center inspired by Pac-Man in Illinois called Level 257. It is a space of more than 41,975 square feet, with bowling, arcade games, and food. The kill screen in Pac-Man is level 256, so level 257 symbolizes the next stage of the game. The 105-year-old French cyclist Robert Marchand set a world record for distance traveled in just 1 hour at a velodrome outside Paris. He set the record in the over 105 category, created especially for him, by covering nearly 14.3 miles in 1 hour. The Amazon basin is home to more than 2,500 species of fish. It is the greatest freshwater diversity on the planet, with new species described every year in its rivers and tributaries. Among them are everything from tiny transparent fish to giants like the arapaima, one of the largest in the world. The complexity of its habitats, with floodplains and different types of water, supports this enormous biological variety. Minister Horace Burgess built what is considered the largest treehouse in the world outside Crossville, Tennessee. The treehouse and church, nearly 98.4 feet tall, rests on a still-living white oak about 80 feet tall, with a base 12.1 feet in diameter, and relies on 6 additional oak trees for support. According to a Harvard study published in the New York Times, if you were born on September 16th, you share your birthday with more people than anyone else. This is related to birth peaks in September, which are often linked to conceptions during December. Factors such as holidays, weather, and social habits influence this pattern, which repeats in several countries with slight variations depending on the region. The Ruggie is an alarm clock disguised as a rug. It forces you to get out of bed because it has a sensor that will only turn off the alarm once you have stood on it for at least 3 seconds. It not only wakes you up, but it also has speakers that will play motivational phrases you can choose to start your day right. The oldest surviving musical composition in its entirety is a Greek melody from the 1st century after Christ, known as the Sakelos Epitaph. The song was found engraved on an ancient marble column used to mark women's tombs in Turkey. It includes complete musical notation along with lyrics, which has allowed it to be performed today. The Sakelos Epitaph is brief and reflective, with a message about enjoying life, and it is preserved at the National Museum of Denmark. There is a massive drainage hole in Napa at the Monticello Dam, known as the Glory Hole. It has a diameter of 72.2 feet and is essentially a giant drain, like the one you would have in your bathtub. It functions as a bell-shaped spillway that activates when the water level rises too high, allowing excess water to be released in a controlled way and preventing the dam from overflowing. Peridot is the only gemstone that is literally not from this world. It has been found in comets, in large formations on Mars, and within certain meteorites that have fallen to Earth from deep space. On Earth, it forms in the mantle and reaches the surface through volcanic activity. The ancient Egyptians called it the gem of the sun and mined it on Zabargad Island for more than 2,000 years. A scent hound that hunts only by smell can follow a blood trail that is several days old. Breeds like the bloodhound have millions of scent receptors and folds in their skin that help trap smells near the nose. Their ability is so precise that their tracking has been accepted as evidence in some courts, and they can maintain a trail even after rain or changes in terrain. The United States state that is closest to Africa is Maine. This is due to the curvature of the Earth, which makes the easternmost point of that state closer to the African continent than other places that appear closer on a flat map. From there, the distance to the coast of Morocco is shorter than from states like Florida, which surprises many when seen on a globe. There is an authentic replica of Carl Fredricksen's flying house from the Disney Pixar movie Up in Harriman. It was built in 2011 with authorization from Disney and recreates many details of the exterior and interior seen in the film. Although it is a real private residence, it has become a curious attraction for fans who often visit to take photos from the outside. Mercury's orbit brings it so close to the sun that its surface temperature can reach 800 degrees Fahrenheit. However, due to the lack of a substantial atmosphere to retain that heat, as soon as night falls, temperatures become much colder, dropping to 279 degrees Fahrenheit below zero. Whale feces refresh the air we breathe. Whales transport vital nutrients to warm surface waters every time they defecate. That is where phytoplankton use the nutrients to perform photosynthesis and produce oxygen. Therefore, essentially, every breath you take is thanks to whales defecating. The Waitomo Caves in New Zealand are caves that were formed over thousands of years by underground streams. They are illuminated by millions of glowworms in a central glowworm grotto, where most of these luminescent organisms live. In southern Peru, there are ancient geoglyphs, also known as the Nazca lines, covering more than 200 square miles. They were discovered in the 1920s and include more than 800 straight lines, 300 geometric figures, and 70 designs of animals and plants. Even though they are often the size of small cities, the force of gravity inside a neutron star is nearly 2 billion times stronger than gravity here on Earth. These collapsed stellar cores have a mass that is 1.4 times the mass of our own sun. There is an orange alligator about 4.92 feet long in a pond in Hanahan, South Carolina that locals call Trumpagator. Its color is believed to be due to exposure to substances such as iron oxide or algae present in the water, which can temporarily stain its skin. Barra Airport in Scotland is the only airport in the world where scheduled flights take off and land on a beach. The runways are marked directly on the sand and are only used during low tide, as the sea completely covers them when it rises. Barra Airport operates regular short-distance flights and adjusts its schedule according to the tides, making it one of the most unusual airports in the world. The ancient Roman calendar designated March 1st as New Year's Day. The calendar had 10 months, which is still reflected in some month names. For example, from September to December, our 9th to 12th months were originally positioned as the 7th to 10th months. Septem is 7 in Latin, Octo is 8, Novem is 9, and Decem is 10. The giant pyrosome is a rare bioluminescent marine creature that is made up of dozens of smaller creatures that reproduce through cloning. They can regenerate injured or missing body parts and live extraordinarily long lives. There is something called rivers in the sky, known as atmospheric rivers, These are weather systems that move high concentrations of water vapor out of the tropics and can cause strong winds and flooding. When they make landfall, they release large amounts of rain or snow, especially in mountainous regions, and in some cases, they can carry as much moisture as several large rivers combined. Actor and singer Gene Autry is the only artist to have all 5 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, one for each category: radio, recording, motion pictures, television, and live performance. Physicist Stephen Hawking, Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak, and Tesla chief executive Elon Musk, along with other experts, signed an open letter calling for a ban on offensive autonomous weapons. The initiative warned about the ethical and security risks associated with this type of technology and aimed to promote international regulations to prevent its uncontrolled development and use. There is a cave in Australia called Cave, yeah, right, that's it. The name arose informally when explorers, unable to agree, ended up accepting that phrase as a temporary designation, which over time became official. Australia has thousands of cave systems, many still little studied, and it is common for some to receive unusual names based on momentary anecdotes. The game of Chinese checkers was not invented in China, and in fact, has no connection to any Asian country at all. The star-shaped marble game originated in Germany in 1892 and was only known as Chinese checkers when it arrived in the United States and companies wanted to take advantage of the popularity of Eastern imports. German chocolate cake is actually an American creation that contains key ingredients such as sweet baking chocolate, coconut, and nuts. The cake did not originate in Germany. It is actually named after Sam German, who created the sweet baking chocolate bar for the Baker Company in 1852. Food Inc. is the first three-dimensional printing restaurant in the world. In the restaurant, all the food, all the utensils, and all the furniture are produced through three-dimensional printing. The edible art is prepared by top chefs using fresh and natural ingredients. Israel has the highest number of museums per capita in the world, with more than 200 across the country. Many are concentrated in cities such as Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and they range from archaeology and history to contemporary art and science. This high density reflects the country's cultural diversity and its interest in preserving both its ancient heritage and its modern expressions. A cup of tea and a plate used by Lady Gaga, marked with her lipstick, and with the message, "We pray for Japan," along with her autograph, were sold at auction for nearly $74,000. The good thing is that the money went to charity. Placing a ripe banana or apple together with some green tomatoes in a closed space helps speed up the ripening process. The factor that accelerates ripening is a gas called ethylene, which is used commercially with tomatoes and other fruits that are picked green before shipping. The Greenland shark is the longest living vertebrate known on Earth. Scientists have estimated that one shark can be 400 years old. Its growth is extremely slow, only a few centimeters per year, and it reaches sexual maturity very late, after more than 100 years. It lives in cold, deep waters of the North Atlantic, where its low metabolism seems to contribute to its extraordinary longevity. These are hybrid bears called Pisleys and Growler bears. They are a cross between a polar bear and a grizzly bear. They are called Pisleys if the father is a polar bear, and Growler bears if the father is a grizzly bear. These hybrids have been documented in the wild in Arctic regions and often show a mix of physical and behavioral traits from both species. There is a natural protective layer that covers eggs called bloom. It seals the pores to reduce moisture loss and prevents the development of bacteria. Also known as the cuticle, it forms just before laying and acts as a first sanitary barrier. That is why in many countries, eggs are not washed before being sold, to preserve this natural protection, while in others, they are washed and then must be refrigerated to prevent contamination. In Beijing, 1 million people live in underground nuclear bunkers, now converted into housing units. They were built in the late 1960s and 70s in anticipation of the devastation from radioactive fallout during the Cold War. Engineers at the University of Washington have developed a form of communication that would allow contact lenses and brain implants to send signals to your iPhone. Interscatter communication works by converting Bluetooth signals into Wi-Fi signals. According to a study conducted by the detergent brand Persil in the United Kingdom, children in that country spend less time outdoors than prisoners. A survey of 2,000 parents found that nearly 3/4 of children spend less than 1 hour outside each day, including 20% who do not go outdoors regularly. However, Prisoners receive at least 1 hour of proper outdoor exercise every day. In the 1980s, Robert L. Crandall, the head of American Airlines at the time, decided to remove a single olive from each salad served in first class on every flight, and that saved $40,000 that year. According to a survey published by TravelZoo, 64% of Americans admit to urinating in the pool or the ocean while on vacation. Although it is often seen as harmless, in pools, chlorine can react with urine and form compounds that irritate eyes and skin. In the ocean, the impact is minimal due to dilution, but in enclosed or crowded spaces, the effect becomes more noticeable. The Hen-na Hotel, which means strange hotel in Japanese, is the first hotel run by robots. At the front desk, multilingual robots assist with check-in and check-out. In the cloakroom, a robotic arm stores luggage, and bellhop robots carry it to the room. Nike's slogan, "Just Do It," was actually inspired by the last words of the murderer Gary Gilmore. His final words before being executed by firing squad were, "Let's do it." Advertising executive Dan Whedon altered it and proposed it to Nike, who ended up turning "Just Do It" into their iconic slogan. The phrase, "pay through the nose," dates back to the Vikings. It used to be a Viking punishment that involved cutting the nose from the tip to the eyebrow of anyone who refused to pay taxes. At the Academy Awards, Mahershala Ali made history by becoming the first Muslim actor to win an Oscar, thanks to his performance as a drug dealer in the movie Moonlight. Orangutans build a completely new nest to sleep in every night. Each one is about 36 feet 1 inch or 39 feet 4 inches above the ground, and is made of leaves, branches, and sticks. The nests have to be strong, as the average orangutan weighs 84 pounds. Even so, the animals rarely reuse or even improve an old one, instead choosing to start from scratch. The antechinus is a small, mouse-like mammal that mates so much that it actually kills itself. Males live less than a year, mating frantically until their bodies literally begin to fall apart. Actor Tom Hanks has an asteroid named after him, 12,818 Tom Hanks. When Bill Gates got married on the Hawaiian island of Lanai, he took extraordinary measures to ensure his privacy. All available hotel rooms were reserved, totaling about 250, and nearby helicopters were also hired to prevent the presence of media and onlookers during the ceremony. The Akashi Kaikyo Bridge, also known as the Pearl Bridge, is the longest suspension bridge in the world with a total length of 2.42 miles. It crosses the Akashi Strait between the main island of Honshu and Shikoku. The suspension cables are nearly 2.49 miles long, with a diameter of more than 35.8 inches. Female spotted hyenas, which are significantly larger than their male counterparts and are the most dominant of the species, do not have a vagina. Instead, they have a type of pseudopenis. This organ, called an elongated clitoris, is also used for urination, mating, and giving birth, which makes childbirth especially difficult and risky. Its development is linked to high levels of androgens associated with their dominant behavior within the group. There is a phone booth on top of a hill overlooking the Pacific Ocean, in the town of Otsuchi in northeastern Japan, called the Wind Phone. It is there to connect family members with their loved ones who were lost in the 2011 earthquake and tsunami that struck the coast of Japan. The Sky Lodge Adventure Suite, located in the Sacred Valley of Peru, offers the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to sleep in a fully transparent hanging bedroom capsule 1,000 feet 8 inches above the valley floor. The capsules measure 23 feet 11 inches long and 7 feet 10 inches high and wide, and they include 4 beds, a dining area, and a bathroom. Northlands is the largest model railroad in the world. It has more than 8.07 miles of track and realistic landscapes with 3,000 miniature buildings and bridges over 39.37 feet tall. It features 100 trains, 400 bridges, and more than 500,000 miniature trees. It is located in Flemington, New Jersey. Fish can actually drown or suffocate while in water. They obtain their oxygen directly from the water through their gills, and if that water runs out of oxygen for any reason, they suffocate, just as an air-breathing animal would. This can occur in stagnant waters, during algal blooms, or when temperatures rise and reduce dissolved oxygen. Some species are more resilient, but others can die within minutes. There is a website called pinstruck.com where you can anonymously place a voodoo curse on anyone. All you need to do is fill in a description of what they look like, enter their email address, and the service does the rest. Male capuchin monkeys urinate on their hands and rub their bodies with urine to attract females. This behavior, known as urine washing, can also serve to mark territory and communicate their status within the group. It is more frequent in species such as the white-faced capuchin, especially during mating season, when the scent acts as a chemical signal to other individuals. Masked birch caterpillars use anal drumming to call other young caterpillars to help weave silk for their cocoons and maintain them. They do this by rubbing hairs from their rear ends against a leaf to create vibrations. These signals travel across the surface of the plant and allow coordinated group work, improving the construction and protection of the shelter against predators and environmental conditions. Between 1934 and 1938, while serving time for tax evasion in Alcatraz, the gangster Al Capone earned some good behavior points with the warden and was allowed to play the banjo in the prison band that he helped form. The Rock Islanders performed every Sunday for the other inmates of the prison. In 2017, a dating app called Hater was released. It matched people based on their mutual dislikes instead of their mutual likes. Some topics included Donald Trump, gluten-free camping, marijuana, butt selfies, and Taylor Swift. The town of Caldari di Ortona in Italy has a wine fountain that remains open 24 hours a day. The Fontana del Vino, installed along a pilgrimage route, offers free wine to visitors and walkers as a gesture of hospitality. The project was promoted by a local winery and remains a unique curiosity in the region, although responsible consumption is an essential part of the experience. The liver of a basking shark is so large that it represents 1/3 of its total body weight. This organ is filled with oils rich in squalene, which helps it maintain buoyancy without the need for a swim bladder. Thanks to this, it can move with less effort while filtering large amounts of water to feed on plankton. The hooded pitahui bird from Papua New Guinea was the first documented poisonous bird. Its feathers and skin contain the same toxin commonly found in poison dart frogs. It is the most powerful natural toxin known to humans. In a historic milestone, India successfully launched 104 satellites in a single mission from the Satish Dhawan Space Center. This mission, carried out by ISRO, far surpassed the previous record of 37 satellites launched in a single flight, which had been set by Russia. Only 8 teams competed in the first NCAA tournament. Since 2011, that number has increased to 68 teams. The inaugural tournament was held in 1939, and, over time, it expanded to include more conferences and invited teams. Today, the format includes elimination rounds that have become a massive event, known for upsets and unexpected teams advancing deep into the competition. Bobby Leach was the second person in history to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel. He survived the stunt, but ironically, died 15 years later while walking on a street in Auckland, New Zealand. He slipped on an orange peel, fell, and broke his leg. After an infection, the leg had to be amputated, and he died during surgery. Koreans donated billions of euros in gold jewelry to help pay off the nation's debt to the International Monetary Fund after the Asian financial crisis of 1997. This allowed them to settle the debt ahead of schedule. The government asked citizens to donate their jewelry, and millions of people did so by giving heirlooms, wedding rings, and trophies. 227 tons of gold were collected in just a few months. The show Stranger Things was rejected 20 times by different networks before finally being accepted by Netflix. The creators, the Duffer Brothers, Matt Duffer and Ross Duffer, struggled to convince executives about a story centered on children with supernatural elements. After its release in 2016, the series became a global phenomenon and helped solidify the model of original content on digital platforms. The medals of the Rio 2016 Paralympic Games included an innovative feature designed for inclusion. Each one contained a small internal mechanism with spheres that produce a sound when shaken, allowing visually impaired athletes to distinguish whether they have won gold, silver, or bronze through hearing. Chess boxing is a hybrid sport that combines the mental battle of chess with the physical fight of boxing. Players must learn to balance their strategy on the board with their plan of attack in the ring. The makers of Sriracha hot sauce, Hoi Fong Foods, chose a green cap for their bottle to represent the stem of a fresh chili pepper. The bottle also features a rooster in honor of the birth year of its founder, David Tran, according to the Chinese zodiac. Unlike other brands, the company invests very little in advertising, and its popularity grew through word of mouth, even experiencing temporary shortages in some markets. A single gram of venom from the Bruno's cask-headed frog is strong enough to kill 80 people. This species, scientifically known as Apeirosphenodon brunoi, is one of the few poisonous frogs that can actively inject toxins through spines in its head. Its toxin is extremely potent and is considered an effective defense against predators, making it unique among amphibians. Dalhousie in New Brunswick, Canada, is giving away plots of land to businesses and entrepreneurs. The value of the land ranges from $20,000 to $50,000. According to the NCOV survey, in Venezuela, about 75% of the population lost on average at least 8.7 kilograms in a recent period as a result of a lack of proper nutrition caused by the economic crisis. On March 23, 1962, Jacqueline Kennedy received a horse named Sardar as a gift from Mohammed Ayub Khan, the president of Pakistan. In 1980, Beatle Paul McCartney was arrested and later deported from Japan after a 9-day stay in a Tokyo narcotics detention center for attempting to smuggle nearly half a pound of marijuana in his luggage. According to the United States Fish and Wildlife Service, the giant African pouched rat is being tested to see if it can help detect illegal shipments of hardwood, part of a multi-billion-dollar black market industry, as well as pangolins, the most trafficked mammal in the world. Rats are used because they have a very strong sense of smell and have been able to detect buried landmines. In the Sierra Nevada mountains, there is a group of blind millipedes that glow in the dark. These Motixia emit a neon bluish-green color thanks to an internal chemical reaction that produces light under their cuticle. It is believed that this glow serves as a warning to predators, as they also release defensive compounds that can be irritating. According to a study published in the journal Archives of Disease in Childhood by researchers at St. George's, University of London, children who spend more than 3 hours in front of a screen or using computers are at a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. These children scored higher on various measures of body fat and had higher insulin levels. The first Super Bowl was officially called the AFL-NFL World Championship Game. The term Super Bowl began to be used informally shortly after, and was eventually adopted officially by the third edition. The first game was played in 1967 between the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs, and over time it became one of the most watched sporting events in the world. The first name of the 18th President of the United States, Ulysses S. Grant, was actually Hiram Ulysses Grant. His middle initial S did not stand for anything, and resulted from an error by Ohio Congressman Thomas Hammer, who accidentally wrote his name as Ulysses S. Grant when he was nominated to attend West Point. The Great Sphinx of Giza was carved from a single block of soft limestone. It is more than 65.6 feet tall, nearly 242.8 feet long, and more than 62.3 feet wide. It is believed to have been sculpted during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre and was originally covered with a layer of polished limestone. Over the centuries, erosion and sand have altered its appearance. Ancient Egyptians lined their eyes with coal, a mixture of lead, copper, burned almonds, and soot, in order to ward off evil spirits. It also had practical uses. It helped reduce sun glare and, according to modern studies, some compounds could stimulate defenses against eye infections. Coal was used by both men and women and was part of everyday aesthetics, with designs that varied depending on the period and social status. There is a tomato tree at the Land Pavilion in Epcot, Florida, that holds the world record for the most tomatoes harvested from a single plant in 1 year. This tomato tree had an annual yield of 32,000 tomatoes, with a total weight of 1,152.3 pounds. There are 4 presidents who completed their full terms as presidents of the United States without a vice president: John Tyler, Millard Fillmore, Andrew Johnson, and Chester A. Arthur. All assumed the presidency after the death of the incumbent, and at that time, the Constitution did not provide a mechanism to replace a vacant vice presidency. This changed with the 25th Amendment in 1967, which allowed a replacement to be appointed and prevented the position from remaining vacant for years. In ancient Greece, during the Olympic Games, a truce was declared so that athletes and spectators could travel safely. Initially, the truce lasted 1 month, but in later centuries, it was extended to 3. Wars were not allowed and weapons could not be carried. This practice, known as echecheria, was respected by several city-states and guaranteed safe routes to Olympia, where the competitions were held in honor of Zeus. The Mekong River Basin in Southeast Asia feeds 60 million people and is home to more giant fish than any other river on Earth. Its waters are inhabited by species such as the Mekong giant catfish, one of the largest freshwater fish in the world, and the giant freshwater stingray. This river is also key for fishing and agriculture, as its annual floods enrich the soil and sustain life in countries such as Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. The largest gem-quality diamond ever found is the Foxfire diamond. It was discovered in August 2015 at the Diavik Diamond Mine, above the Arctic Circle in Canada's Northwest Territories. It is an impressive 188 carats. According to research led by Colin Wright at the University of California, paper wasp queens pass their personality onto the colony. Wright's team discovered they could predict the behavior of a paper wasp 6 weeks before it was born simply by observing the queen. The Weinstefan Brewery, located in a small town just north of Munich, has been brewing beer continuously for nearly 1,000 years, surviving 4 fires, 3 plagues, and a major earthquake. In 2013, when the song The A-Team by Ed Sheeran received a Grammy nomination, Elton John tried to get Ed a performance slot at the awards ceremony, but he was told that Ed did not have a high enough profile. So, Elton decided to perform with Ed to solve the problem. Many cats love olives because of the isoprenoids found in them, which are structurally similar to the active chemical in catnip. That is why some react by rubbing, rolling, or showing playful behavior when they smell them. Not all cats respond the same way, as sensitivity varies depending on their genetics. Although not toxic in small amounts, olives usually contain salt, so they should only be offered occasionally and in very small portions. The red, white, and blue colors of the barber pole are a legacy of a time when people went to barbers not only for haircuts or shaves, but also for bloodletting and other medical procedures. Barbers cut hair, performed bloodletting, extracted teeth, and even set broken bones. The famous designer Hugo Boss not only made Nazi uniforms, but also was a member of the Nazi Party. His company, Hugo Boss, produced uniforms for different organizations during the regime, in a context where many German industries worked under state contracts. Years later, the company publicly acknowledged this past and has addressed that period in historical studies and official statements. A study conducted by Courtney Marnewik, a doctoral student in the School of Life Sciences at the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, found that rhinos use communal defecation sites. In other words, they defecate together. Male rhinos can determine how many other males are nearby and the reproductive status of females from this site. There are service tunnels lined with pipes running beneath most buildings on the Ohio University campus. They were created in the late 1800s as a way to access pipes in case of an emergency without digging up the grass, and they are still in use today. The French Army has trained golden eagles to destroy enemy drones so they would not have to shoot them down. The program was developed by the French Air Force and trained the birds to intercept small devices in midair. Golden eagles can reach great speed and precision when attacking, which made them ideal for this task. Although the project drew a lot of attention, over time, safety and animal welfare concerns limited its operational use. There are snakes in the rainforests of Southeast Asia that are capable of launching themselves from trees and gliding gracefully through the air. They can change the shape of their bodies to generate the aerodynamic forces needed to glide. These species, from the genus Chrysopelia, do not truly fly, but glide by flattening their bodies and undulating in the air, allowing them to travel several meters between trees to escape predators or search for food. In Great Britain, Ireland, Norway, Iceland, and New Zealand, police officers are unarmed while on patrol. They are only equipped with weapons under special circumstances. This practice is rooted in tradition and in the belief that arming police with guns causes more violence than it prevents. Since all mammals, including dolphins, require fresh water to survive, it is believed that dolphins have an advanced filtration system that allows them to extract additional salt from their urine to separate salt from the seawater they consume. The strawberry squid is a deep-sea squid that looks like a strawberry and has uneven eyes. It has one large, light-colored eye that points upward and one smaller, darker eye that points downward. One eye evolved to look for predators, and the other evolved to look for prey. The writer, actor, and comedian Dan Aykroyd has a form of autism called Asperger's. One of his symptoms was an obsession with ghosts and law enforcement. This is what led to the idea for the movie Ghostbusters. The recently discovered Geckolepis megalepis is a type of fish scale gecko, a group of nocturnal lizards found only in Madagascar that have an astonishing defense mechanism. When it is caught by a predator, it can shed patches of skin and scales from most of its body, causing the scales to stick in the attacker's mouth. According to a study conducted by the Department of Experimental Psychology at the University of Bristol, caffeine makes men less effective, but makes women more effective as partners under stress. There is a village in southeastern Poland called Zalipie, where all the cottages are painted with floral designs. More than a century ago, women painted over the dark soot stains caused by their stoves with flower paintings, and the tradition continues to this day. Domino's Pizza has a wedding registry where people can purchase different electronic gift cards for a lucky couple. Some examples they offer include a $25 pizza gift called the Real Life Adjustment After the Honeymoon, because doing the dishes is the worst. There is also the $15 option called Married But Chill. The Galapagos Islands are a chain of islands created by volcanic activity, and no animal is truly native to the Galapagos. Every species of animal found in the Galapagos arrived by floating on ocean or air currents. In 2013, Burger King attempted to make its French fries healthier by introducing Satis Fries, a lower-calorie alternative. However, customers preferred the full-fat version, and Burger King removed the product. The recipe used a special batter that absorbed less oil, but its higher price and the perception of lower taste contributed to its low popularity, leading to its discontinuation within a few years. Gibraltar International Airport crosses Winston Churchill Avenue, the busiest road in Gibraltar. This is necessary because the entire peninsula covers only 2.6 square miles. Every time a plane takes off or lands, barriers are lowered to block traffic and drivers sit and wait for the aircraft to pass. Joseph Todling from Austria set the world record for the longest distance being dragged by a horse while completely engulfed in flames. He traveled 0.31 miles completely on fire. The world's first fluorescent frog was discovered in Argentina. Under normal light, the polka dot tree frog appears to have dull greenish-brown skin with red spots, but under ultraviolet light, it glows a bright fluorescent green. It was identified as Boana punctata, and its fluorescence is due to compounds in its skin that absorb ultraviolet light and re-emit it in green tones. This finding opened new lines of study on visual communication in amphibians and its possible use in nighttime environments. There is an annual tradition called Las Bolas de Fuego that takes place every August 31st in El Salvador. Two groups of young people throw flaming balls made of old cloth and wire soaked in gasoline. This dangerous event has been held since 1922. Ancient Egyptians, during the mummification process, sometimes used lichens and onions to fill body cavities, and they were often used as false eyes. These practices were part of the effort to preserve a recognizable appearance for the afterlife. They also used aromatic resins and linen wrappings to seal the body, and in some cases, placed amulets between the layers for spiritual protection, according to their funerary beliefs. There is an artificial heart device known as syncardia that allows people to temporarily live without a heart. It is often used by people who are waiting for a heart donor. This system replaces both ventricles and maintains circulation with an external pneumatic pump that sends blood to the lungs and the rest of the body. Some patients have managed to live with it for several months, extending the time available to find a compatible transplant. Blood type tattoos were used during the Cold War to allow rapid transfusions. In two parts of the United States, Indiana and Utah, school children were actually tattooed to facilitate emergency transfusions as part of a mobile blood bank in case of an atomic attack. Venus is referred to as Earth's sister planet due to the number of things it has in common with our world. It is a terrestrial planet and also orbits within the habitable zone of our Sun. However, its dense atmosphere, composed mainly of carbon dioxide, creates an extreme greenhouse effect that raises its surface temperature to more than 400 degrees, making it the hottest planet in the solar system. The Pentagon has more than 17.4 miles of corridors and a total floor area of 6,600,000 square feet. Its five-sided design allows people to move relatively quickly despite its size, as most points can be reached on foot in just a few minutes. The Pentagon is one of the largest office buildings in the world and houses thousands of employees. In 1945, Balua Hunter, 25 years old, gave birth to a healthy baby after being pregnant for 375 days. To put that into perspective, a normal pregnancy is about 280 days. China's population has begun to decline after decades of sustained growth, recording a drop of more than 1 million people in a recent period. This decline is mainly due to a low birth rate, an aging population, and social changes such as the high cost of living and a lower desire to have children. A 33-year-old British man named Simon Smith changed his name to Bacon Double Cheeseburger after a night of drinking with friends. Researchers are currently developing flexible electronic skin for prosthetic limbs that can help replicate the sensory capabilities of real skin. It can even detect temperature changes. In 2006, Alex Thornton and Catherine McAuliffe of the University of Cambridge discovered how adult meerkats teach their younger pups not to be stung by scorpions, one of their main prey sources. They bring the pups dead scorpions, then some that are alive but injured, and finally progress to fully live prey. There are 293 different combinations to make change for $1. This calculation considers the common coins in circulation in the United States, such as pennies, 5, 10, 25, and 50-cent coins. The medieval city of Nördlingen in Bavaria, Germany is located entirely inside a meteorite crater that is 15.5 miles in diameter. That crater was formed 14,500,000 years ago. 25% of presidents of the United States lost their fathers at a young age or during adolescence due to death, divorce, or abandonment. Many of them were raised by single mothers and grandparents. Queen Elizabeth II was the longest reigning British monarch in history, having ruled for more than 7 decades. During her life, she also became the longest-serving reigning monarch in the world, solidifying her place as one of the most enduring and significant figures in modern monarchy. The full name of Bangkok, Thailand has 169 characters. Some frogs vomit their entire stomachs when they have eaten something extremely unpleasant, such as a poisonous insect. The whole stomach is expelled inside out, causing the offending insect to fall out. If it does not fall out completely, the frog uses its front limbs to wipe and clean the inverted lining of its stomach. In northwestern Poland, there is a forest of about 400 pine trees that grow with a 90-degree curve at the base of their trunks before rising vertically again. This collection of bent trees has been called the Crooked Forest. It is believed they were planted in the 1930s and that the shape may have been caused by human intervention to obtain curved wood, although there is no definitive explanation. A team of Egyptian and German archaeologists found a statue nearly 26 feet 3 inches tall of King Psamtik I, who ruled Egypt from 664 to 610 before Christ. It was originally believed to be a representation of Pharaoh Ramses II and is more than 3,000 years old. Greenland is the least densely populated territory in the world, with only 0.05 people per square mile. The total population is only about 56,000 people. Most live on the southwest coast, where the climate is less extreme and there is access to the sea. More than 80% of the territory is covered by ice, which limits settlements and makes many communities isolated and connected only by boat or plane. The slow loris has glands on the inside of its elbows that secrete a toxic venom. It can use it both as a weapon and as protection, and the toxin can be drawn into its mouth, giving it a venomous bite. This small nocturnal primate from Southeast Asia combines the secretion with its saliva to activate the venom, capable of causing severe allergic reactions in humans. Mothers can also apply the substance to their young to protect them from predators. There is something called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, or the Pacific Trash Vortex, where there is an accumulation of garbage in the North Pacific Ocean. It spans waters from the west coast of North America to Japan and is made up of small plastic particles that never degrade. According to a study by Scott Boback, a vertebrate ecologist at Dickinson College in Pennsylvania, boa constrictors do not suffocate their prey. In reality, they cut off its blood supply. When they tighten their bodies around the victim, they exert pressure on the circulatory system, causing arterial pressures to drop, venous pressures to rise, and blood vessels to close. The lead singer of Aerosmith, Steven Tyler, started Janie's Fund, named after his song Janie's Got a Gun, to support programs offered in youth villages to help girls overcome deep trauma from abuse and neglect. The Azure Window, the iconic rock formation and tourist attraction in Malta, collapsed into the sea in March 2017 after having stood there for thousands of years. Located on the island of Gozo, the Azure Window was a natural limestone arch shaped by wind and wave erosion. Its collapse occurred during a strong storm, and since then, the site continues to attract divers who explore the submerged remains on the seafloor. Venus rotates very slowly, taking more than 243 Earth days to complete a single rotation. It has the slowest rotation period of any planet. In addition, it rotates in the opposite direction to most planets, which causes the sun to rise in the west and set in the east. Interestingly, a full day on Venus, measured from sunrise to sunrise, lasts longer than its own year around the sun. On March 24, 2001, in a spring training game between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Francisco Giants, Randy Johnson struck a dove while pitching, causing the bird to explode in midair. The crew of Apollo 7 won a special Emmy Award from the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences for their live broadcasts from space. When margarine was first introduced, which is naturally white, 32 states imposed color restrictions on it. Vermont, New Hampshire, and South Dakota passed laws requiring that margarine be dyed pink. Then there were other states that proposed it be dyed red, brown, or black. This happened because butter manufacturers did not want it to be yellow, since they did not want it to have the same color as butter. Zoos have begun raising dog puppies and cheetah cubs together to help reduce the cheetah's stress and channel its wild energy. The dog acts as a constant companion, helping the cheetah feel calmer in controlled environments. This practice has improved their adaptation in captivity and, in some cases, supports reproduction, which is often difficult for this species outside its natural habitat. According to a study conducted by Enigma, key regions of the brain are smaller in people with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. These include parts responsible for emotions, goal-directed action, learning, and responses to stimuli, rewards, motivation, and memory. On July 20, 1944, Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg, Chief of Staff of the Reserve Army, attempted an assassination against Adolf Hitler. Stauffenberg placed a bomb in a briefcase, which he positioned near Hitler under a table, and then quickly left. Another colonel inadvertently moved the bomb farther away from Hitler, so when it detonated, Hitler was injured but survived. Researchers in Japan have been able to use a small drone to pollinate a real flower. They achieved this by attaching horsehair bristles from a brush to the underside of the drone to mimic the fuzzy body of a bee. They then coated the hairs with a sticky gel that captures pollen when it touches the flower, acting like a semi-permanent glue. A couple from Cardiff, Wales, Martin Shervington and Eliza Evans, were actually married in virtual reality in May 2017. The wedding took place in a virtual nightclub called The Spire. They invited 150 of their friends and family, many of whom would not have been able to attend a real wedding in Cardiff. They got married on a virtual reality social network called AltSpace VR. The creator of the video game Minecraft, Marcus Notch Persson, sold the business in 2014 to Microsoft for $2,500 million. After the purchase, the game continued to grow with new updates and versions across multiple platforms, establishing itself as one of the best-selling titles in history, with hundreds of millions of copies distributed worldwide. According to a study conducted by scientists at the University of Wyoming in Laramie, bumblebees can fly higher than Mount Everest. The researchers placed the bees in a plexiglass flight chamber and used a hand pump to remove all the air from the chamber to create the reduced air pressures the bees would face at high altitudes. The plexiglass broke before the bumblebee stopped flying. Oranges are actually green. In warm climates, most green oranges are perfectly ripe and do not need to ripen further. In fact, they are on their way to spoiling when they turn orange. The color change occurs when temperatures drop, as chlorophyll breaks down and the orange pigments appear. That is why in tropical regions they can remain green on the outside while their flesh is already sweet and ready to eat. Geologists Jonathan O'Neill and Richard Carlson discovered ancient minerals that are remnants of the original crust of the Earth, which formed more than 4,200 million years ago. That discovery was made in northern Quebec, Canada. There is actually no lead in a pencil. The core of a pencil is made of a non-toxic mineral called graphite. The confusion comes from centuries ago, when this material was thought to be a form of lead. Graphite is mixed with clay to adjust hardness, which determines whether the mark is darker or lighter, as in the HB or 2B classifications commonly used. Alligators live mainly in freshwater habitats, while crocodiles prefer saltwater or brackish environments. This is because crocodiles have special glands on their tongues that allow them to expel excess salt, giving them an advantage in estuaries and mangroves. They also tend to have narrower snouts and more aggressive behavior, while alligators, such as the American alligator, are more common in rivers, lakes, and freshwater swamps. A dermatoglyphia is an extremely rare genetic disorder in which people are born without fingerprints. The fingertips of people with this condition are completely flat and lack the ridge patterns that virtually all other humans have. Bonnie Voris of Bruceville, Indiana, built 2 roller coasters in her backyard called Blue Flash. She built them for her grandchildren without prior experience, using scrap metal that she collected and welded. Llamas and alpacas can successfully crossbreed, and their offspring is called a huarizo. This cross combines traits from both species, such as the larger size of the llama and the finer wool of the alpaca, although the quality of the fleece can vary. In many Andean regions, they have been bred for generations and are valued for their resilience and adaptability in high-altitude terrain. There really is a vegetarian spider, Bagheera kiplingi, found in southeastern Mexico and northwestern Costa Rica. It lives in acacia trees and feeds mainly on the nutrient-rich bodies produced by these plants, something very rare among spiders. Even so, it occasionally consumes small insects or nectar. Its behavior also includes avoiding the tree's protective ants, making it a fascinating example of adaptation and strategy. Microwave ovens were originally called radar ranges. American engineer Percy Spencer is generally credited with inventing the modern microwave oven after World War II, based on radar technology developed during the war. It was first sold in 1946. The early models were large and expensive, used mainly in restaurants and ships, before being adapted into household versions years later. The Holiday Inn Resort in Panama City Beach, Florida, has a special daily wake-up call for spring break students, blasting "The Circle of Life," the song by Elton John from The Lion King. There is a nursing home in the Netherlands called Humanitas Residential and Care Center, where college students can live rent-free alongside elderly residents. Instead of paying rent, students are required to spend at least 30 hours per month with the elderly, doing things like watching sports games, celebrating birthdays, and spending time in general with residents who are ill. It is a project established with the goal of preventing the negative effects of aging. The crayon color named Flesh was voluntarily changed by Crayola to peach in 1962, partly as a result of the civil rights movement in the United States. The company sought a more inclusive term, since Flesh did not represent the diversity of skin tones. Over time, the brand expanded its palette even further with lines that include many shades to better reflect human diversity. In 2011, DKNY presented a $1 million bottle for its Golden Delicious perfume line. It is covered with 2,909 gemstones from around the world, and each one was placed by hand to resemble the skyline of New York City. Alabama was the last state in the United States to lift the ban on interracial marriage. The government did not remove it until the year 2000, more than 30 years after the Supreme Court ruled that such a ban was unconstitutional. In Japan, it is women who give gifts on Valentine's Day. Men may choose to reciprocate or not 1 month later on White Day. It is common for women to give chocolate, distinguishing between honmei choco for romantic partners or interests and giri choco for co-workers or friends. On March 14th, during White Day, men are expected to return the gesture, often with sweets or more valuable gifts. The women's rights activist Susan B. Anthony illegally voted in the presidential election of 1872. She was tried, found guilty, and sentenced to pay a fine of $100, but she refused to pay it and was released anyway. Gagan is a restaurant that has been named the best in Asia for the 3rd consecutive year. The restaurant's menu is only 1 page and consists of 22 emojis, each representing a different dish. Located in Bangkok, it was created by chef Gagan Anand and is known for its innovative approach to progressive Indian cuisine, where each dish aims to surprise both in flavor and presentation. There is an island in the Thousand Islands chain that separates Canada and the United States in the St. Lawrence River that is officially called Just Room Enough Island. It was purchased by the Sizeland family in the 1950s and has just enough space on its surface for a house, a tree, and a couple of chairs to sit outside. In November 1960, Ruby Nell Bridges, 6 years old, became the first African-American child to attend a public elementary school for white students in the southern United States. She had to be escorted to school by federal marshals for her safety and spent the first year as the only student in her class. Researchers from the University of Queensland and Monash University have discovered that a protein in funnel web spider venom can protect the brain from damage after a stroke. They recreated the venom in a laboratory and found that the protein blocked acid-sensing ion channels in the brain, which is one of the key factors that causes brain damage after a stroke. Victoria Falls, which drop into a deep gorge on the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe, are considered the largest waterfall in the world. It is not the widest or the tallest waterfall, but considering all dimensions, including nearly the highest flow rate, it is regarded as the largest curtain of water in the world. During the rainy season, up to 150 million gallons of water fall per minute. Queen Victoria's doctor gave her marijuana to relieve pain when she experienced menstrual cramps. The treatment was recommended by her personal physician, Sir John Russell Reynolds, who also prescribed it for migraines and other ailments. During the Victorian era, cannabis extracts were common in European medicine and were sold in pharmacies before being restricted in the early 20th century. Male hippopotamuses measure each other by opening their mouths up to 150 degrees, stretching them to about 4.92 feet wide. This gesture is more of a display of strength than an immediate attack, where they show their large tusks to intimidate rivals. Despite their calm appearance, they are highly territorial and can be very aggressive, especially near water, where they spend most of their time. According to a study published in an internal medicine journal and conducted by Dr. Ronell Welton of the University of Melbourne, horses caused more deaths than snakes and venomous insects. Between 2000 and 2013, horses were responsible for 74 deaths. Bees and stinging insects caused 27. Snakes also caused 27 deaths, and spiders, in fact, did not kill anyone. There is an app that helps choose a ripe watermelon. You only need to place the phone's microphone on the watermelon, tap the fruit until the test lights flash, and wait for the result. The opossum is known for playing dead when it is in danger or frightened. The reaction is actually involuntary, as the animal enters a comatose state as a defense mechanism. When whatever caused the fear is gone, it wakes up again. Schmaltz Brewing and Barcade collaborated to create a Pilsner beer flavored like pastrami. It is a beer made with authentic notes of pastrami, including ingredients such as a pinch of kosher salt, a hint of pepper, and smoke. The Canada Border Services Agency currently uses advanced facial recognition technology at several international airports in the country. This system compares travelers' images in real time with official databases and watch lists, with the goal of strengthening border security, speeding up entry processes, and detecting individuals wanted by authorities. There is a giant atom sculpture called the Atomium located in Brussels, Belgium. It was built in 1958 for the World's Fair to symbolize the atomic age. It stands 334.6 feet tall and features 9 spheres of nearly 59.05 feet in diameter, each connected by tubes with escalators and walkways for visitors. Since they cannot sweat, wood storks and vultures often urinate on their own legs to keep cool. This behavior is called urohydrosis and helps lower their temperature when the liquid evaporates. In addition, the waste contains compounds that can also reduce bacteria on their legs, which is useful because they often perch in warm areas or on organic remains. Attorney and MIT alumnus Philip Widener built what is known as the Goose Creek Tower, in what locals call the Dr. Seuss House in Alaska. It began as a log cabin measuring 39.37 by 39.37 feet, but he kept building cabin upon cabin on top of each other. The cabins become gradually smaller, and the tower has reached nearly 180.4 feet in height. The only reason he stopped was because federal airspace begins at 200 feet. According to the Environmental Working Group's Shopper's Guide to Pesticides, strawberries usually top the list of produce with the highest presence of pesticide residues. By contrast, sweet corn and avocados have the lowest amounts. According to Guinness World Records, actress Betty White held the record for the longest television career for a female entertainer, with a career spanning more than 6 decades. Her presence in the entertainment world began in the mid-20th century and remained active for much of her life, establishing her as one of the most enduring figures in television. Ireland, New Zealand, Iceland, and Newfoundland are places that do not have native snakes. In the case of Ireland, its isolation after the last ice age prevented these reptiles from arriving on their own. New Zealand and Iceland, due to their remote locations and unfavorable climates, also did not develop natural populations, while in Newfoundland, extreme cold and its geological history have limited their presence. Until recent years, Steve Jobs has been posthumously credited in more than 140 patents since his passing, reflecting the lasting impact of his work at Apple. Of the more than 450 patents he was involved in throughout his career, a significant portion was directly linked to him. Many focused on product design and user experience, which solidified his influence on the brand's identity. Small fragments of the skull of President Abraham Lincoln, along with the bullet related to his assassination, are part of a historical collection preserved at the National Museum of Health and Medicine, where they are studied and displayed for educational and scientific purposes. Country singer LeAnn Rimes is the youngest individual Grammy winner. She was only 14 years old when she won her first two awards for Best New Artist and Best Female Country Vocal Performance in 1997. The largest aircraft in the world, the Airlander 10, is 301 feet 10 inches long. It is filled with nearly 1,306,000 cubic feet of helium and can reach an altitude of 2.9 miles. Nicknamed the Flying Bum, the aircraft has a rear-shaped design and can remain in the sky for up to 5 days. The Girl Scouts of the United States of America were founded by Juliette Gordon Low on March 12, 1912 in Savannah, Georgia. Today, the organization has around 2 million members, reflecting its continued presence and influence in the development of girls and young women in the United States. Narwhal tusks are actually teeth that are built inside out. Unlike our own teeth, they are soft on the outside and gradually become hard and dense on the inside. This tusk can grow several meters long and is filled with nerve endings, allowing it to detect changes in temperature, pressure, and salinity in the water. It is also believed to serve social functions, such as display or competition between males. A Taiwanese student, Guan Hao Pan, designed the Love Guide packaging system for condoms for people who always buy the wrong size. The packaging comes in 5 different shapes and sizes, including zucchini, carrot, banana, turnip, and cucumber. In Pakistan, the Islamabad High Court issued an order that restricted the public celebration of Valentine's Day in the capital, Islamabad. A comedian named Tim Fitzsimmons crossed the English Channel in 2005 in a copper bathtub for charity. He earned a world record as the first person to cross the English Channel in a bathtub. To celebrate the feast of St. John the Baptist on June 24th each year, people in the Philippines hold a roasted pig parade. They roast pigs and then dress them with sunglasses, wedding outfits, or even wigs. Owls have 3 eyelids. The upper eyelid closes when the owl blinks, the lower one closes when it sleeps, and the third is a thin layer of tissue that closes diagonally from the inside outward to clean and protect the surface of the eye. This nictitating membrane allows them to maintain vision while flying or hunting, even with dust or prey nearby, and is key to their nighttime precision. The construction of one of the tallest dams in the world took place in China on the Dadu River. This ambitious hydroelectric project was designed to reach approximately 1,030 feet in height, making it one of the most imposing infrastructures in the world. A 70-year-old woman from Independence, Missouri, participated in the challenge known as the World Marathon Challenge, which consists of running 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. This extreme challenge involves constant changes in climate, time zones, and physical conditions, with flights between each race. Participating at that age requires rigorous preparation and great endurance, making the achievement especially impressive within the world of athletics. In parts of Pakistan and other areas of South Asia, people smoke dead and dried scorpions to get high. China developed an innovative project known as the Nanjing Vertical Forest in the Pukou district within the city of Nanjing. This complex consists of 2 towers covered in vegetation, one approximately 656 feet and the other 328 feet tall, designed to house thousands of trees and shrubs. A study conducted by the Australian Centre for Ancient DNA and the School of Dentistry at the University of Adelaide found that Neanderthals self-medicated to deal with pain. When they were in pain, they actually ate poplar, which contains the pain-relieving compound salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin. Death Valley National Park has the lowest point in North America, the Badwater Basin, at 282 feet below sea level. This place is famous for its vast salt flats and extreme temperatures, making it one of the driest and hottest environments on the planet. The fastest man on Earth, Usain Bolt, has a condition called scoliosis, which creates a curvature of the spine and worsens as the body ages and grows. 20 grams of nuts per day can reduce a person's risk of heart disease by nearly 30%, their risk of premature death by 22%, and their risk of cancer by 15%. These benefits are associated with their content of healthy fats, fiber, and antioxidants. Population studies have also linked regular consumption with lower inflammation and better cholesterol control, especially when they replace ultra-processed snacks in the daily diet. A 27-year-old artist from London named Millie Brown creates art by ingesting soy milk dyed with a mixture of colors and then vomiting it onto a white canvas. She does not eat for 2 days before the performance so that her stomach is empty of food. The provincial government of Alberta, Canada, states that the province has been rat-free for more than 50 years. Although rodents enter aboard trucks, trains, and on foot, they are almost always alone and therefore cannot reproduce to create more. The Hubble Space Telescope orbits Earth at a speed of approximately 24,934 feet per second, capturing detailed images of stars, planets, and galaxies. Thanks to its position outside Earth's atmosphere, it can observe the universe with exceptional clarity, which has enabled some of the most important discoveries in modern astronomy. In an unusual initiative, NASA launched a public challenge to develop a system capable of handling human waste inside a spacesuit for extended periods of time. The goal was to create a solution that would allow it to be collected and moved away from the body safely, hygienically, and without the use of hands, considering long-duration space missions where astronauts could remain in their suits for several continuous days. The Beatles' song "Yesterday," written by Paul McCartney, is the most recorded song in history. Thousands of versions have been recorded by artists from different genres, from orchestras to jazz and pop singers, and it is also one of the most performed songs on radio and television over the decades. Mountain Dew built the first pinball-inspired skate park in June 2011 in Henderson, New Zealand. The Mountain Dew Pinball Skate Park was an interactive park with sensors that triggered lights, sounds, and rated skill level on a scoreboard above. For the first time, the government of the United States authorized a private company to plan a mission to the moon. The company Moon Express obtained that permission to develop a robotic landing with the intention of exploring the satellite and evaluating the possibility of collecting resources. There is a cologne that smells like Play-Doh. The brand Hasbro released this fragrance to celebrate the anniversary of the famous modeling compound, recreating its sweet and slightly salty scent that many people instantly recognize. In the United Kingdom, people over 50 years old with diabetes are awarded medals for their bravery and perseverance in living with the condition. Diabetes UK presents distinctions known as Long Service Medals, which recognize those who have lived with the condition for decades, not only based on age. Some are awarded after 50 or even 60 years since diagnosis, as a way to highlight advances in treatment and the resilience of patients. The Gombe Chimpanzee War was a violent 4-year conflict between two communities of chimpanzees in Gombe Stream National Park. It lasted from 1974 to 1978. It was observed by primatologist Jane Goodall, who documented how one group systematically attacked the other, showing organized behaviors that surprised the scientific community about the social nature of these animals. Although hippopotamuses are primarily herbivorous animals, in rare cases, unusual behaviors have been documented in which they may feed on the remains of other animals, even of their own species. This type of behavior is not common and is usually associated with exceptional conditions such as stress or resource scarcity. During World War II, the United States Playing Card Company joined forces with American and British intelligence agencies to create a very special deck of cards. This deck was designed to help prisoners of war escape from German prison camps. The deck was called the Map Deck. It was made by hiding highly classified escape route maps between the two layers of paper that form normal playing cards. When submerged in water, these decks could be peeled apart to reveal the hidden maps. According to a study published in the journal Addiction in 2008, approximately 76% of adults experience some type of hangover after drinking. Research compiled by Addiction indicates that factors such as dehydration, compounds called congeners, and lack of sleep influence its intensity. Even so, there are people with lower sensitivity who report few symptoms even after consuming similar amounts of alcohol. For 11 years in the 1970s and 1980s, skateboarding was banned in Norway because the country's Ministry of the Environment overreacted to the dangers the pastime posed to children. According to the Literacy Project Foundation, 45 million Americans are functionally illiterate, and cannot read above a 5th grade level, and 50% of adults cannot read a book written at an 8th grade level. There is a welcome sign for visitors in the hometown of Kurt Cobain, Aberdeen, Washington, that says, "Come as you are," after the hit song by Nirvana. The Air Mule is a drone ambulance built by the Israeli company Tactical Robots that can take off and land vertically. It is designed for conditions where landing a helicopter is not feasible, such as on a battlefield, and it can carry up to 992.08 pounds for up to 31.07 miles. The situation of the northern white rhinoceros has become even more critical. Currently, only 2 individuals remain alive, both females, which are kept under constant protection in a reserve in Kenya. The last male, named Sudan, died, leaving the subspecies functionally extinct in the wild. Today, scientists are working on advanced techniques such as in vitro fertilization and genetic conservation in the hope of preventing its complete disappearance. The main Taco Bell restaurant in Las Vegas began allowing people to get married inside the restaurant. They even have a wedding chapel on the 2nd floor for ceremonies. Packages include officiants, themed decorations, and branded food, turning the ceremony into an unconventional experience that is very popular among couples looking for something different. New Delhi, India, is ranked as the most polluted city in the world by the World Health Organization. New Delhi often records very high levels of fine particulate matter, especially in winter, when traffic emissions, industry, agricultural burning, and atmospheric conditions combine to trap smog. In recent years, rankings may vary depending on the study and the season, but the city continues to face severe air pollution episodes. The car in which rapper Tupac Shakur was fatally wounded went up for sale in February 2017 with a price of $1.5 million. The car was previously owned by rapper Suge Knight. It was a black 1996 BMW 750iL, restored after the incident and turned into a highly sought-after collector's item. The heart of a shrimp is located in its head. It is actually inside the cephalothorax, a structure that fuses the head and thorax in these crustaceans. Their circulatory system is open, so hemolymph does not travel through closed vessels as it does in humans. In addition, their main organs, including the stomach and brain, are also concentrated in that same compact region. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 1 out of every 6 adults in the United States engages in binge drinking approximately 4 times per month. This pattern, known as episodic heavy drinking, is associated with risks such as accidents, long-term health problems, and liver disease. Despite this, many people do not perceive it as a problem, which makes prevention and control more difficult. There is a foundation called Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation that was founded by Alexandra Scott, who was diagnosed with neuroblastoma before her 1st birthday. When she was 4 years old, she held a fundraiser with a lemonade stand in her front yard and raised $2,000. By the time of her death in 2004, at the age of 8, she, with the help of supporters around the world, had raised more than $1 million. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences requires Oscar winners to sign an agreement promising to give the Academy the first right of refusal to repurchase the trophies for $1. This rule, applied since the 1950s, aims to prevent the statuettes from being sold on the private market. If a winner wishes to dispose of their award, they must first offer it to the Academy under that condition. In the United States, data collected over several years indicates that thousands of men went to emergency rooms for zipper-related injuries. This type of accident came to represent a considerable proportion of treated genital injuries. The European hare is the fastest land mammal in the United Kingdom. They can reach speeds of over 44.7 miles per hour. They are also known for their powerful hind legs, which allow them to make sharp turns and long jumps to evade predators. Their speed is not constant, but in bursts, giving them an advantage in short chases across open fields where they usually live. According to a study led by Dr. Amneet Sandhu at the University of Colorado in Denver, switching to daylight saving time and losing 1 hour of sleep increased the risk of having a heart attack the following Monday by 25% compared to other Mondays of the year. Saturday was named after Saturn, just as Sunday was named after the sun and Monday after the moon. These names largely come from Latin and Germanic traditions that associated each day with visible celestial bodies. In English, this relationship is more clearly preserved, such as Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, while in Spanish, the names evolved with religious influence for other days of the week. Of the 24 men who traveled to the moon on the Apollo 8 mission and from Apollo 10 through 17, 20 were Boy Scouts. This includes 11 of the 12 men who walked on the moon and the 3 crew members of Apollo 13. Actor Shia LaBeouf took his commitment to the movie Fury to an unusual level. During filming, he chose to undergo real physical changes, such as having a tooth removed, with the intention of bringing greater authenticity to his character in the World War II story. A study from Yale University once found that the smell of Crayola crayons is one of the most recognizable scents for adults. It ranked 18th, just ahead of coffee and peanut butter. The characteristic smell comes from paraffin wax and mild fragrances added during manufacturing, making it easy to identify even years later. Crayola has also maintained a fairly consistent formula, reinforcing that recognition over time. In the world of technology, the word Yahoo followed by an exclamation mark means yet another hierarchical, officious oracle. In 1994, David Filo and Jerry Yang used the term to name their internet search engine. On the 94th floor of the John Hancock Center in Chicago, there is a steel and glass structure called Tilt that allows people to lean out 1,000 feet 8 inches above the city. It has 3 hydraulic actuators that rotate the moving platform and tilt you 30 degrees over the edge of the building. Whale milk has such a high fat content that it has the same consistency as toothpaste. The high fat content not only helps nourish the calf, but also prevents the milk from dissolving in water. In many species, it can exceed 30% fat, allowing calves to grow quickly in cold waters and build a protective layer of fat in a short time. Fleas travel on earwigs to suck the blood of bats. In 2006, a team of entomologists ventured into the heart of Deer Cave in Gunung Mulu National Park in Malaysia and found earwigs covered in fleas. They discovered that fleas use earwigs as transportation to reach the cave ceiling, where they can feed on the blood of naked bulldog bats. There is a McDonald's in Marino, Italy, where you can eat and also observe an ancient Roman road at the same time. The road, built between the 2nd and 1st centuries before Christ, was discovered in 2014 while the restaurant was being constructed. The road was excavated, documented, and enclosed in a glass-roofed gallery so customers can look down at it. There is a temple called Wat Sampran in Thailand that has a giant dragon wrapped around the exterior of the building, which is approximately 17 stories tall. On the ground, there are also several animal sculptures, such as an elephant, a rabbit, dolphins, and another large building shaped like a turtle. Snakes were once capable of slithering and walking because they originally had legs, but they evolved into limbless creatures, although the gene for growing limbs still exists. In some modern species, tiny remnants of those limbs can still be seen, such as small spurs near the tail. Occasionally, a chicken lays an egg inside another egg. This phenomenon occurs when a hen is in the process of forming an egg in its oviduct, and a second ovum is released by the ovary before the first egg has fully traveled through the oviduct and been laid. Earth receives 174 petawatts of solar radiation at the upper atmosphere. 30% of that is reflected back into space, and the rest is absorbed by clouds, oceans, and land masses. Part of that energy drives key processes such as atmospheric circulation, the water cycle, and photosynthesis, while another fraction is re-emitted as heat, helping maintain the planet's thermal balance. Richard Nixon has appeared on the cover of Time more than any other person, having been featured 55 times. His constant presence was due to his long political career, from congressman and vice president to president, as well as key moments such as the Watergate scandal, which kept him at the center of public attention for decades. The word Kia has origins in the Chinese language, with the first syllable, Qi, meaning to arise or come out of. The second part of the word refers to Asia. In other words, Kia means to arise or come out of Asia. There is a molecule in Sichuan pepper that causes the tactile receptors in your cells to feel as if they are vibrating rapidly and gives you that numbing, tingling sensation. It is hydroxy-alpha-sanchool, a compound that activates the nerves responsible for touch rather than taste, creating that characteristic sensation. That is why in Chinese cuisine it is combined with spiciness to create a unique feeling called mala, highly valued in traditional dishes. President Jimmy Carter installed 32 solar panels on the roof of the White House when he was president in the late 1970s. When Ronald Reagan took office in 1981, he had them removed because he thought it was a joke. Later, when President Obama moved in, he had solar panels installed again. Theodore Roosevelt won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1906 for his role in mediating the Treaty of Portsmouth, which ended the Russo-Japanese War. He was the first American to receive the award and used the prize money to fund a trust for promoting industrial peace. Wasabi is one of the most difficult plants to cultivate in the world because it cannot be grown well anywhere other than cold, pure flowing water. It also takes more than a year to mature, and if there is too much humidity or the nutrient composition is incorrect, the entire crop can be lost. There is an indoor farm of 69,000 square feet in Newark, New Jersey, which is the largest indoor farm in the world. Vertical farms can grow crops without soil, sunlight, and almost without water. They use 95% less water than conventional outdoor farms. In Italy, Disney changed the name of the movie Moana to Oceania because Moana Pozzi is the name of a famous adult film actress in that country. She died in 1994, but her name is still widely recognized. NASA and the European Space Agency's Hubble Space Telescope captured a rare image showing the death of a star. It shows the dying star transforming from a red giant into a planetary nebula called the Calabash Nebula. It is known as the Rotten Egg Nebula because it contains so much sulfur that it would smell like rotten eggs. In the 1800s, teeth were taken from dead soldiers to make dentures for the wealthy whose teeth had rotted. After battles such as the Battle of Waterloo, these teeth were collected and sold as Waterloo teeth. Before materials like porcelain became common, this practice was relatively widespread in Europe, although over time it generated rejection for ethical and health reasons. The larvae of Apomus beetles from the Middle East specialize in killing frogs, salamanders, and other amphibians that try to eat them. They lure their prey by encouraging it to approach and attack with double-hooked mandibles, attaching themselves and eating the prey alive. This behavior reverses the typical predator-prey relationship, as amphibians go from hunters to victims. They can even resist escape attempts, staying firmly attached while consuming their prey. In Buddhist and Muslim countries, it is considered an insult to point the soles of your feet or shoes at someone. In many cultures in Asia and the Middle East, feet are associated with the lowest and most unclean part of the body, so showing them in that way can be interpreted as disrespect. That is why it is common to remove shoes when entering homes or temples, and to avoid gestures where the soles of the feet face other people. According to Guinness World Records, 1,416 Toyota cars were parked together at Kuznetsovo Airport in Russia to create a giant Toyota logo, breaking the previous world record held by Subaru. It was created to introduce a new Toyota dealership in the area. Researchers at the University of Bristol discovered that bees leave a scent trail on surfaces with their feet. Bees can detect the scent and distinguish whether it is their own, that of a relative, or that of a stranger. This chemical trail influences their foraging behavior, helping them decide whether a flower has already been visited recently. It also allows them to avoid conflict and better coordinate access to resources within their immediate environment. In Margate, England, there is a series of underground passages covered with millions of seashells. The Margate Shell Grotto was discovered in 1835, but it is still unknown how old it really is or who built it. Unlike other fruits that typically grow on trees, pineapples grow on bushes, and each pineapple plant produces only one fruit. The plant can take more than a year to bear fruit, and after harvesting it, usually produces side shoots that allow new pineapples to be grown. In addition, the pineapple is actually a composite fruit formed by the fusion of many individual flowers, which explains its characteristic segmented structure. According to a study published by Vegetarian Times, 3.2% of adults in the United States, that is about 3.7 million people, follow a vegetarian diet. Before Super Bowl 51, the Atlanta Zoo and the Roger Williams Park Zoo in Providence, Rhode Island made a bet. If their team lost, they would name a baby animal after the quarterback of the winning team. Since the New England Patriots defeated the Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Zoo named a Madagascar hissing cockroach Tom Brady. Until the 1990s, the Super Bowl halftime show consisted only of marching bands and exhibition teams, simply intended to fill time so fans and viewers could go to the concession stand, grab a favorite snack, go to the refrigerator, or just go to the bathroom. There is a robotic coffee preparation kiosk called Cafe X that opened in downtown San Francisco. Drinks are served by robot baristas, which are robotic arms designed by Mitsubishi. There is a dog cloning service called Suum Biotech Research Foundation, located in South Korea, that will clone your pet for around $100,000. During the filming of Rocky IV, Sylvester Stallone was sent to the hospital by Dolph Lundgren. Dolph hit him so hard in the chest during a fight scene that the pericardial sac around his heart became inflamed, which prevented his heart from beating properly, causing his blood pressure to spike to 290. He spent 9 days in intensive care. There is a National Fancy Rat Society. It was formed in 1976 by a group of people who simply wanted to promote the rat as a pet and show animal. Researchers at MIT have created a new material that is stronger than graphene. It is 10 times stronger than steel, with only 5% of its density. Only 1 out of every 300 calico cats is male. This occurs because the tricolor pattern is linked to sex chromosomes, and most of these cats are females with 2 X chromosomes. The few males usually have a rare genetic combination, which often makes them sterile. Although it is uncommon, it is possible for tonsils and adenoids to grow back after surgery. Only a small amount of tissue needs to be left for them to regrow. This occurs more often in children, as their immune system is still developing and the tissue can regenerate over time. In most cases, it does not cause problems. But in rare cases, it may require a second procedure if symptoms such as infections or difficulty breathing return. There are restaurants throughout Bangkok, Thailand called Cabbages and Condoms, where there is condom-themed decor and, instead of offering you a mint after dinner, you receive a condom when you leave. According to a study published by a team from the University at Albany in the journal Analytical Chemistry, gender can now be determined from the concentration of amino acids found in a fingerprint. It turns out that women have more amino acids than men. According to the Max Planck Institute for Ornithology in Germany, the frigate bird sleeps while flying. It sleeps about 12 seconds at a time, and usually with only half of its brain. Over a period of 24 hours, it sleeps only about 40 minutes. Actor Michael Clark Duncan, who played John Coffey in the movie The Green Mile, was once a bodyguard for Queen Latifah, Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, and Jamie Foxx. Scientists have developed a reusable sponge called the oleo sponge, which can absorb oil from the surface of the water and also from below it, improving our ability to clean large oil spills. Dr. Hadi Shafi, an assistant professor of medicine at Brigham and Women's Hospital and Harvard Medical School, is working on the creation of a new device that measures sperm concentration using a phone camera. President Lyndon B. Johnson was a great lover of dogs, so much so that he tried to sneak his dog Yuki into his daughter Lucy's wedding in 1968. Magerocophobia is the fear of cooking. It can take many forms and is extremely common, although it is only considered a phobia when it is severe enough to interfere with daily life. It may be related to the fear of making mistakes, getting sick, or being judged by others, and in some cases, it is associated with general anxiety. Many people manage it by starting with simple recipes and controlled environments before gaining confidence in the kitchen. Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI had a pilot's license and could fly small aircraft, a little-known fact about his life before his death in 2022. Lemurs have very poor vision and can only see in black and white. This limitation is related to their adaptation to nocturnal life, where they perceive contrasts better than colors. To compensate, they rely heavily on smell and chemical signals to communicate, and also produce distinctive vocalizations that help them locate each other and stay together in their environment. Those small round bugs that live under logs called pill bugs, also known as roly-polies, are not bugs at all, but are actually crustaceans. They are related to shrimp and crayfish, breathe through gills, and need moisture to survive. Japan has braille on its beer cans that indicates the word alcohol, and sometimes even the name of the manufacturer. This system was introduced to help visually impaired people distinguish alcoholic beverages from similar ones, such as soft drinks. It usually appears on the top of the can, near the lid, and has spread as an accessibility measure in various products in the country. President Theodore Roosevelt had a tattoo of his family crest on his chest. That wave-shaped drop of toothpaste that appears on your toothpaste box is called a nurdle. It is a marketing term used to describe that idealized shape that looks attractive in packaging and advertisements. It does not have a specific practical function, but it helps make the products look more neat and visually appealing, which influences consumer perception. In 2006, the annual Discover Santa convention was held in Branson, Missouri. There were workshops, vendor fairs, and events. More than 300 Santas attended. It was the first modern convention of its kind. In Murphy, North Carolina, there is a place called Fields of the Wood Bible Park that has a mountain called the 10 Commandments Mountain. The 10 Commandments are literally carved into the grassy hillside. Both Muslims and Hindus in some parts of India have a ritual dating back 500 years, where they drop their babies from the roof of a temple onto a sheet held tightly by men on the ground. It is believed to bring good health and good luck. On Valentine's Day at the Bronx Zoo, for a donation of $10, you can name a cockroach after your partner. The money goes to the Wildlife Conservation Society. How romantic. Nelson Mandela was an amateur boxer. He trained at the Donaldson Orlando Community Center gym in Johannesburg. He enjoyed the science of boxing more than the violence of it. The saltiest body of water in the world is Don Juan Pond, located in the McMurdo Dry Valleys in Antarctica. It is a pond only about ankle deep at its lowest point in the upper right valley. It is so salty that its waters rarely freeze. It has a salinity level of more than 40%. It takes about 600 years for a discarded fishing line to degrade in the ocean. Most are made of nylon, a very durable material that can persist for centuries and continue trapping fish, turtles, and seabirds in what is known as ghost fishing. That is why in many places there are collection programs for used lines to reduce their impact and protect marine life. Male llamas and alpacas can suffer from something called berserk male syndrome. Owners may suddenly find their animals violently charging at them from behind or rising on their hind legs while screaming, spitting, and biting. It is caused by excessive handling by humans, which makes the alpaca or llama begin to see the human as a rival. Residents of a town called Hopeman in Scotland have been pretending to be police officers using radar guns, arming themselves with hair dryers and reflective vests to combat drivers who exceed the speed limit. In 1874, earmuffs were invented by a 15-year-old boy named Chester Greenwood in Maine. He shaped two pieces of wire into circles and then connected them with a headband. His grandmother sewed velvet and beaver fur onto the circles to protect against the wind. He was 18 when he obtained the patent, and by 1883, his factory was producing 30,000 earmuffs a year. In the 18th century, during the Georgian period, women covered imperfections such as smallpox scars with small beauty patches known as mouche. They often used small cutouts of black velvet, silk, or satin, but people who could not afford silk or satin had to use a piece of mouse skin. Dolphins shed the entire outer layer of their skin every 2 hours. This continuous process helps them maintain smooth skin and reduce drag while swimming, improving their efficiency in the water. Unlike other animals, they do not do it in defined periods, but constantly, shedding dead cells as they swim. Their skin also regenerates very quickly, which helps with the healing of small wounds. Germany put into service the world's first passenger train powered by hydrogen with zero emissions, developed by Alstom. These trains use fuel cells that convert hydrogen into electricity, and as a result, they only emit water vapor during operation. During his 1963 tour with the Beatles, singer Roy Orbison, who had very poor eyesight and needed thick glasses, left his regular glasses on an airplane before a show. This forced him to wear his prescription sunglasses that night, but the look ended up becoming his signature style. During the Second World War, British Special Operations executives equipped secret agents with spicy powders that were placed in condoms intended for German soldiers stationed in Norway. On February 10, 2017, there was a full moon, a lunar eclipse, and a comet that could all be seen on the same night. When moose are in mating season, they emit a high-pitched bellowing sound that sounds exactly like the ringwraiths from The Lord of the Rings. This call, known as a rutting call, is used to attract females and warn other males, and it can be heard over long distances in forests and open areas. In the Lord of the Rings films, sound designers mixed human voices with animal effects to create those screams, which explains why it sounds so eerily similar in real life. Nepalese climber Pemba Dorje is a Sherpa who holds the record for the fastest ascent of Mount Everest. He climbed Everest in just 8 hours and 10 minutes in 2004. There is a cooking trend in Japan called kawaii cooking. It is a form of miniature cooking that uses tiny stoves, pots, pans, and kitchen utensils. People create edible miniature meals using real-life ingredients that are cooked over the flame of a candle. Wearing a green hat in China is considered a social misstep. It represents that your partner is unfaithful. Baby oysters are called oyster seed. In aquaculture, they are also known as spat, a term used to refer to larvae that have already attached to a solid surface. These small oysters are essential for cultivation, as they are collected or raised in hatcheries and then moved to areas where they will grow until reaching commercial size. In 1965, the artist Salvador Dali drew an image of Jesus on the cross and donated it to Rikers Island Prison in New York. It hung in the dining hall for 16 years until the administration feared that prisoners might damage it and moved it to a plexiglass case. In 2003, it was stolen by 4 prison officers, including a deputy warden. A new species of prehistoric otter from 6.24 million years ago was discovered in Yunnan province in southwestern China by an international team of scientists from the United States, France, and China. It was named Xiaomugere melilutra, was approximately the size of a wolf, and weighed about 110.2 pounds. To put that into perspective, it is almost twice as large as the largest living otter. A study led by Dr. Martin Neffler found that each year, the global spider population consumes between 400 million and 800 million tons of prey, mainly insects. They consume approximately the same amount of prey that humans consume in meat and fish annually. A man named Barry Chappell from Los Angeles holds the world record for the largest ball of chewing gum. He chewed 95,200 pieces of Nicorette gum over a period of 6 years and formed a giant mass. The ball weighs more than 174.2 pounds and measures more than 4.92 feet in circumference. In the original design of Mount Rushmore, the 4 presidents were intended to be carved from the waist up, but lack of funding caused the carving to stop after the faces were completed. In the late 18th century and early 19th century, parents of babies with crying and colic in England and the United States gave them something called Godfrey's cordial, also known as mother's friend. This mixture included opium, molasses, water, and spices to calm them. According to recent reports from U.S. News and World Report, manual transmission has become increasingly rare in the United States. Only a minority of drivers know how to operate this type of vehicle, and currently only a small percentage of new cars are sold with manual transmission. The preference for automatic transmissions, driven by convenience and technological advances, has significantly reduced its presence in the automotive market. An adult muskox can shed up to 7.94 pounds of inner wool when the weather warms in spring. This layer, known as kivyut, is one of the finest and warmest natural fibers in the world, softer than sheep's wool and highly valued in clothing production. The animals shed it naturally as temperatures rise, without the need for shearing. The ostrich is the fastest animal on land that moves on 2 legs. These flightless animals are capable of running at a speed of 39.8 miles per hour for short periods, such as when escaping a predator, and at 29.8 miles per hour when they need to travel long distances. Every February, the Dakini Hot Pools in Whitehorse, Yukon, Canada host a hair freezing contest. Visitors dip their hair into hot water at about 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and then let it freeze in the cold air, which can easily drop below -22 degrees Fahrenheit. Ireland has a theme park that is owned by a potato chip brand and bears its name. Tato Park is located just across the street from the company's manufacturing plant, and every time a guest enters or leaves, they are given a small bag of Tato chips. In Georgian times, people applied something called fard to sunburned faces and acne breakouts. It was a mixture of sweet almond oil, spermaceti, which is a waxy substance found in the head of a sperm whale, and honey. It would melt with heat and, once cooled, was applied to the face and left on overnight. The largest Elvis festival in the world is held in Collingwood, Ontario, Canada. There is an Elvis impersonator competition, and vendors offer collectible items. The festival receives nearly 30,000 visitors each year. In 1919, the Stanley Cup Finals in Seattle were canceled due to an outbreak of the Spanish flu. Never before or since have the finals themselves been canceled. A company based in London, England, called Little Riot, has created a product called Pillow Talk. It is a bracelet that captures your heartbeat and sends it in real time to your loved one. It allows you to hear their heartbeat in your pillow, and they can hear yours in theirs. Approximately 795,000 people in the United States suffer a stroke each year, with about 3 out of 4 being first-time strokes. In fact, someone in the United States has a stroke every 40 seconds. Egypt has modified its daylight saving time policy several times. Although it had previously suspended it, in recent years it has reinstated it as part of measures to optimize energy consumption. According to Alexis Noel, a doctoral candidate at the Georgia Institute of Technology, a frog is capable of changing the viscosity of its saliva in the blink of an eye. The frog retracts its eyeballs into its head to help create the pressure needed to change the saliva. According to a study conducted by TDG Research, the average Netflix subscriber spends more than 550 hours each year using the service. Scientists at IBM in Zurich, Switzerland, announced that they created a neuron from germanium antimony telluride that replicates a biological neuron. It could be the first step toward creating an artificial brain. The space between the thumb and the extended index finger has a name. It is called Perky. A homeless man named Nemanja Petrovic from Serbia discovered that he made more money begging when he was not actually present. He became so tired of being ignored that he made a sign that said, "Invisible beggar," left it on the ground with his hat and shoes, and walked away. He later returned to find his hat full of money. The capybara, native to many countries in South America, is the largest rodent in the world. These web-footed creatures can grow more than 4 feet 3 inches long and weigh up to 143 pounds. In Japan, you can buy a pyramid-shaped watermelon. They are sold for the price of $500 each. These shapes are achieved by growing them inside transparent molds that guide their growth from early stages. They are usually produced in limited quantities and are often bought more as decorative or gift items than for consumption, since their high price is more related to aesthetics than flavor. In 1999, Ole Terenius from the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences discovered that mute swans surf with their wings on the water. When these birds want to move quickly, they lift their wings and tails to catch the breeze. From 1733 to 1755, all lawyers were banned in the state of Georgia. They were considered pests and the downfall of humanity. It was believed that every person was perfectly capable of defending their own case when necessary. There is a World Bog Snorkeling Championship in Wales, where competitors must ride a mountain bike as fast as they can along the bottom of a bog, which is a trench 6.56 feet deep filled with water. The bikes they use have frames filled with lead, the tires are filled with water, and competitors wear lead weight belts to avoid floating off their bikes. Researchers monitor wild cheetah populations using a footprint identification technique. The method assumes that each paw print is unique to a particular cheetah and can be identified similarly to a human fingerprint. Photographs and casts of the tracks are taken, analyzing their shape, size, and toe distribution, which allows individuals to be tracked without capturing them or placing devices on them. Research scientists working alongside Facebook, who studied a sample of 160,000 users, found that people who preferred dogs over cats had more online connections on average and were more likely to be in a relationship than users who preferred cats. The city of San Francisco was a pioneer in the United States in implementing a program that allows its residents to access free college education at local public institutions. This initiative covers tuition at the City College of San Francisco, making higher education more accessible and serving as a model for other cities seeking to expand educational opportunities. Scientists are using three-dimensional printing technology to create artificial reefs, which are less vulnerable to climate change and more durable against the changing chemistry of the ocean. In the coming years, they could help restore some habitats. Chinese scientists genetically modified 300 dairy cows to produce milk that contains nutrients found in human breast milk. This means that cow's milk, similar to human milk, could be a viable alternative to regular infant formula in the near future. The 86-year-old nun Madonna Buder earned the nickname the Iron Nun due to her astonishing endurance. She has completed more than 40 Ironman races, which consist of a cycling course of 111.8 miles, a swim of 2.4 miles, and a run of 26.2 miles. She was the oldest Ironman triathlon competitor. In South Korea, April 14th is known as Black Day. It is a day when single people who did not receive anything on Valentine's Day or White Day gather, dress in black, and eat black noodles together. The typical dish is jjajangmyeon, a pasta with black bean sauce, and the date has become a popular social tradition among young people and friends. There are more than 4,600,000 26-year-olds in America. That is more than any other age group. There is an artist from Pennsylvania named Heidi Hooper who creates award-winning art using dryer lint. She uses fibers collected from dryers to create detailed portraits and complex scenes, taking advantage of the different colors and textures of the material. Her works have been exhibited in galleries and competitions, demonstrating how an everyday waste product can be transformed into striking pieces of art. Theodore Roosevelt was an avid reader. He was known to read on average one book a day while he was president. He usually read several books at the same time, rotating depending on his mood. We at the Worcester Polytechnic Institute are developing a method to use the vascular network of spinach leaves to deliver blood, oxygen, and nutrients in order to grow human tissue. They hope that in the future, this will help treat damaged tissue in the human heart. There is a company called Artful Ashes that mixes the cremated remains of loved ones with color into a decorative glass art piece. According to Andreas Keller at Rockefeller University, the average person can distinguish the difference between 1.7 trillion different smells with combinations of 30 ingredients. Scientists have created a three-dimensional printer that uses a patient's own skin cells to print skin grafts, including hair follicles and sweat glands, which can be used to treat burn victims. American aviator Charles Augustus Lindbergh, who made the first solo non-stop flight across the Atlantic in 1927, was a polygamist and had 3 other families and wives in Germany and Switzerland. Thomas Edison proposed to his second wife, Mina Miller Edison, using Morse code.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.